Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are diving deep into Eon Reality and their use of AI and XR.
Really interesting stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they are really claiming to kind of revolutionize learning with
Mm.
this whole, fusion of AI and
Yeah,
XR
yeah.
tech.
Yeah, and it's a really relevant topic too, right? I mean, look at how much AI is already
Oh yeah,
shaking things up in the job market.
absolutely.
And Eon Reality is saying they're right at the front of this whole, learning and development space.
Yeah, and it's not just like a, futuristic pipe dream.
Right.
They are claiming to have these concrete solutions
Yeah.
for people and businesses who are trying to keep up with this whole skill gap thing,
Yeah.
which is
Well,
a big
absolutely.
deal.
Yeah, it's a major problem. And, one of the stats that really jumped out at me from the research
Oh
was
yeah, tell me.
that something like half
Whoa.
of all workers are going to need reskilling by 2025,
Wow.
which is
That's cr
it's
Yeah.
mind-blowing. And it really just highlights how limited like traditional learning methods are,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
So what I found really interesting about Eon Reality's approach is this learn, train, perform framework.
Okay.
They have
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's all about using AI and XR to create these interactive and immersive learning experiences that are supposed to be really tailored to your own needs.
Okay, so like
Yeah.
break it down for me. What does that look like in practice? Like how does that actually work?
Okay, so the learn phase seems to be mostly like AI powered courses and tutorials.
Okay.
But the thing that really caught my eye was this thing called a teach mentor.
Okay.
And they're describing it as this like conversational AI avatar
Uh-huh.
that basically acts as a personalized tutor. So like
Whoa.
it guides you through the material, explains concepts, and can even adapt to like how you learn best.
So you're like talking to this virtual tutor instead of just
Yeah.
reading stuff on a screen.
Yeah, it's like
It's wild.
straight out of a sci-fi movie. And then they take it a step further with this train phase
Okay.
where they bring in XR simulations. So like
Yeah.
imagine a
Mm.
medical student who's learning about the heart,
Uh-huh.
not from a textbook, but by actually like visualizing and interacting with a 3D heart
Wow.
in augmented reality,
Yeah.
or a factory technician learning how to do like complex repairs
Right.
with an AR headset that like overlays instructions
Oh, wow.
onto the real equipment.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah,
But I do wonder how they measure, like, how effective
right.
these simulations are.
Yeah,
Because the research mentioned, like, a 4 times faster skill acquisition rate.
right.
But, like, what does that actually mean? How are they comparing that to, traditional learning? And what skills are we even talking about here?
Those are great questions.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think the way they did their research is really important to understanding like the real impact of all this. And it also makes me wonder like what types of learning are best suited for this kind of immersive tech,
Uh-huh.
Like, is it better for hands-on skills versus, just learning concepts?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if they, like, totally nail this learning and training part,
Yeah.
how do people even figure out which skills to focus on in the first place?
Well, that's where this Career Compass comes in.
Okay.
It's an AI-powered tool that's supposed to like analyze your skills and figure out what you're missing,
Okay.
and then recommend like a personalized learning path for you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it can even help people switch to totally different careers.
So it's like having a career counselor
Yeah.
right there in the platform.
Exactly.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. And they gave this example of someone who wanted to move into cybersecurity.
Oh, yeah.
And like the Career Compass would look at their existing skills and then recommend specific courses
Wow.
and even simulate like cybersecurity work through XR
Oh, wow. So you could get,
to give them that practical experience before they even apply for a new job.
that's so cool.
Yeah, and I think this speaks to this bigger idea
Yeah.
of empowering people to like navigate this crazy job market
Right.
that's constantly changing.
Yeah. And with AI constantly like
Exactly.
reshaping everything.
It's like this idea of lifelong learning and being able to adapt is becoming more and more important,
Yeah, for sure.
you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But this career compass,
Mm.
using AI to like guide people's careers,
Yeah.
doesn't that raise some red flags for you?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, how do we make sure the AI isn't biased in its recommendations
Right.
or limiting people's options based on, whatever is in its algorithm.
Yeah, that's a huge concern. And I think we need to look into like the downsides
Yeah.
and the ethics of relying so heavily on AI for career guidance.
Right.
Because, yeah, it can provide valuable insights, but we can't just blindly trust these algorithms without considering the bigger picture and, the potential for bias.
Yeah, totally. And so we've talked about the learn and the train parts of their framework.
Right.
But what about the perform phase?
Yeah.
What happens after someone finishes all the training?
Well, it seems like the AI is still there even after the initial learning.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's like having this digital mentor
Oh, wow.
kind of by your side, giving you feedback, offering suggestions, and helping you bridge the gap between what you learned and actually doing it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And it's really interesting how they see this AI support going into like the actual workplace.
Oh, wow.
Like the research didn't go into too much detail, but it seems like the AI could give you real-time guidance,
Oh, wow.
maybe through some kind of AR interface while you're actually doing your job.
Okay, so it's not just about learning the skills. It's about, like, having this AI safety net
Right.
when you actually use them on the job.
Exactly.
But wouldn't that make people depend too much on the AI? Like, when do you start trusting your own judgment and experience over what the AI is telling you?
That's a really good point.
Oh.
The goal should be to help people become independent and think for themselves. Right.
Not to make them rely on some kind of digital crutch.
Right.
It's all about finding that balance between AI help and, people being able to make their own decisions.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of balance, it's not all just about job skills, right?
Right.
The source material also talked about this idea of AI-powered entrepreneurship.
Yeah, they were saying that AI can be used for everything, like brainstorming business ideas
Oh, wow.
to prototyping products to even like speeding up business growth.
Really?
Yeah, they even said that their platform lets people build XR applications without knowing how to code.
So you're saying like someone with a great idea but no technical skills could actually create and launch an XR app?
That's what they're suggesting, yeah.
Wow.
Like they give this example of someone developing a fitness coaching app.
Okay.
And you could imagine using AI to design the app's interface,
Yeah.
create virtual trainers,
Yeah.
and even get feedback on your idea before you even launch it.
Wow, that's pretty cool. It's a really interesting idea, but then it also makes you think about, what if the market gets flooded with all these low quality apps?
Right, quantity over quality.
Exactly.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It seems like there are always like downsides to these big advancements.
Right.
But before we get too gloomy, let's look at some of the real world stuff that Eon Reality is talking about.
Okay.
Like, they seem to be making some progress in fields like education manufacturing and healthcare.
Yeah, what's really interesting is just how many different industries are trying out this technology. Like in education, they're claiming some pretty amazing results.
Oh, yeah.
Like a 95% higher retention rate compared to traditional teaching.
95%, that's huge. But what were they comparing it to? Like, what were the baseline retention rates?
Right.
And how are they even measuring retention? Is it just like a multiple choice quiz? Or are they actually testing for deeper understanding?
Those are great questions.
Yeah.
And I think it's super important to look closely at these claims and figure out how they got those numbers. It's also important to think about how they're dealing with potential biases in the data they use to train these AI systems.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the data already reflects, existing inequalities in education, then those biases could actually get worse through the AI's recommendations.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We can't just assume these AI systems are fair or objective.
Exactly.
The research also mentioned that Walmart used VR training to cut their training time way down, like from 8 hours to just 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's a huge time saver.
Wow.
And it really shows how XR simulations can streamline workforce training, especially for things that are really hands-on.
Right.
But we also have to consider the downsides. Like,
Yeah.
what about the human side of training?
Uh-huh.
Could this kind of technology make workers feel isolated or reduce opportunities for mentorship and collaboration?
Right. It's not just about efficiency.
Exactly.
There's that social aspect of learning that we can't forget about.
For sure.
And what about access? Like the research focuses on all these success stories, but can everyone actually use these tools?
Mm.
Or are we creating a situation where only people with the latest tech can benefit?
That's a really important point that often gets missed in these conversations.
Yeah.
We need to make sure these tools are available to everyone, no matter their background,
Right.
and that they don't make the digital divide even worse.
Yeah, absolutely. So while Eon Reality's platform has a lot of potential, it's definitely not perfect.
Right.
It seems like there are a lot of ethical questions and potential downsides that we need to think about more carefully.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
We need to be a little skeptical and really think critically about these technologies.
Yeah.
It's not about rejecting innovation. It's about making sure it's developed and used in a way that benefits everyone.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential, the challenges, the real-world examples.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? What does all this mean for the average person who's trying to figure out this rapidly changing world?
I think if we bring it back to the individual,
Yeah.
the key takeaway is that being adaptable and always learning is super important.
Okay. In a world where AI is taking over tasks and changing entire industries, the ability to constantly learn and evolve is more important than ever.
So it's not just about learning specific skills. It's
Okay.
about being open to growth and embracing the unknown.
Exactly.
It's kind of we are on the edge of this massive change in how we think about education and work.
Yeah.
This whole idea of like combining AI and XR to create these immersive learning experiences.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
What I find really interesting is how Eon Reality is presenting themselves not just as like a tech company,
Right.
but as a company that's pushing for this bigger change towards lifelong learning.
Yeah.
Like they're basically saying that in this world where everything is changing so fast,
yeah.
being able to adapt and learn new skills is like the key to success.
So it's not just about learning for the sake of it.
Yeah.
It's about giving people the tools to control their own careers and be ready for the future of work.
Exactly. And that brings up some really interesting questions.
Like if we really embrace this vision of AI-powered learning,
Mm-hmm.
what happens to like the traditional education system?
Yeah.
Do universities even matter anymore?
That's a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, I can definitely see how these personalized on-demand learning experiences could like totally disrupt the traditional model.
Yeah.
But I also wonder if there's still value in that social aspect of learning.
Yeah.
You know, those face-to-face interactions with teachers and other students.
Right. I think it's about finding a balance.
Yeah.
Like these technologies aren't meant to completely replace human interaction,
Right.
but to make traditional learning methods better.
Yeah.
Like imagine a classroom where students can use AI tutors for extra help,
Okay.
while the teacher focuses on leading discussions and helping them think critically.
That's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
But as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I think the most important question for our listeners is this.
Okay.
What does this all mean for you?
Yeah.
How can you prepare for this future where AI is becoming more and more a part of learning and work?
I think it comes down to being open to always learning and adapting.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to try new technologies.
Yeah.
Explore different learning platforms.
Yeah.
And be curious about the world around you.
Yeah.
The skills you have today might not be useful tomorrow.
Right.
So being able to learn, unlearn, and relearn is going to be essential.
So it's not just about what you know.
Right.
It's about being able to learn and change.
Exactly.
And I think that's something that goes way beyond AI and XR.
Absolutely. It's like a fundamental truth about living in a world that's constantly changing.
Well, that's a great point to end on.
Yeah.
We've reached the end of our deep dive into Eon Reality and the future of AI-powered learning.
Yeah.
We hope this conversation has given you some new things to think about
I hope so.
and maybe even inspired you to explore these new technologies a little more.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.